The Spanish army, called the Ejército de Tierra, is a very important part of how Spain keeps itself safe. Its main job is to always protect Spain's right to rule itself. It keeps Spain's land safe from anyone outside who might try to harm it. This job is written down in Spain's main law book, the Constitution. The army works hard for the Spanish people all the time. Now, in the year 2025, this job is as important as ever. It has new problems to face in a world that's getting more complicated. The soldiers of Spain have this big responsibility every day. The hard work they do is the base for keeping the whole country safe. The story of the Spanish army goes far back into Spain's past. You can see its story through hundreds of years of very important times. The Reconquista, a long time ago, helped create how the kingdoms in Spain fought. Later, the famous tercios were some of the best soldiers in Europe for many, many years. These soldiers showed Spain's strength across a huge empire. This long history with lots of ups and downs has really changed what it means to be Spanish. The army's way of thinking today is still a little bit shaped by these things from the past. It has gone through times of big fights and long times of peace, always changing. Today, the army in Spain does more than just fight. It gives very important help when there are big problems in the country. This includes helping out when bad things like floods or earthquakes happen. The army might also help the police keep things safe inside the country if they need to. When people see the army, it often means a lot to the country. What people think about the armed forces is mostly good. People mostly support what the army does. The army is always changing what it can do to deal with today's dangers well. These dangers can be old ways of fighting, or new mixed ways, and even terrorism. The 21st century meant the army had to change a lot. It now does many more things than just protecting its own land. Helping out with big problems in other countries is now a big part of what it plans for. Being part of NATO and the European Union has changed things a lot. These groups really affect how Spain plans its army and fights. The army has to deal with a tricky world. In this world, friendships between countries can change, and there are dangers you can't see coming. So being able to change is very important for the army to keep being useful and good at its job. How strong the Spanish army is today comes from its professional soldiers. In 2025, about 76,000 people are full-time soldiers. In Spain, they stopped making people join the army in 2001. Since then, everyone in the army chose to join. These men and women really wanting to be there is super important for how well the army can do its job. Getting enough people to join is something planners always have to work on. Having good soldiers is very important for how well the army works. These soldiers do very hard training to be really good. Everyone knows they are good at their jobs. Reserve forces are also a very important part that helps out the Spanish military. These are volunteers who add to the full-time soldiers when they are needed. Having them gives the army more people and options. Reservists train often, so they're ready. They are meant to fit in well with regular units when they are sent out or during bad times. What the reserve soldiers do is very important for helping the country bounce back from problems. They bring different skills from their regular jobs, which makes the army better with more skills and able to change. They are just as dedicated as the full-time soldiers. Spain has several special units in its army that are very good. The Spanish Legion, known as La Legion, is maybe the most famous. It has a long and famous history. The Parachute Brigade, or BRIPAC, can send soldiers by parachute very quickly. The Special Operations Command, Mando de Operaciones Especiales, has very skilled soldiers. These units are always ready to go. It's very, very hard to get into these units. The training they do is super tough and makes them do as much as they possibly can. These forces give Spain important special ways to use its army. Training and helping all soldiers get better is a very important idea for the army. They really focus on teaching modern ways to fight. Soldiers are made ready to work in all sorts of different places and situations. They train a lot with friends from NATO and other countries. These training times help them work better together and share good ideas. Having good sergeants and other leaders who aren't top officers is seen as very important. They try to make good leaders at every level. The army wants soldiers to keep learning and get good at special jobs. This makes sure its soldiers stay good with new tools and new ways of fighting. The Spanish army is always working to get better gear. They always try to get rid of old stuff and bring in newer things. A big reason for this is to make sure their gear works well with their NATO friends. This lets Spanish soldiers work smoothly with soldiers from many countries. The government also tries to help Spanish companies that make army gear when they can. This helps Spain be able to make some important things itself, but when they buy new things, they have to decide what they need while thinking about how much money they have. This is often very hard for military planners. The most important part of Spain's tank units is the Leopard 2E main battle tank. This is the Spanish version of the German Leopard 2A6 tank. It is a very strong and good tank. Helping the tanks are the Pizarro infantry fighting vehicles. These vehicles with tracks help soldiers move safely and shoot. An important new thing is the VCR-8X8 Dragon. This new fighting vehicle with wheels makes the army able to do more things and go to more places more easily. Other protected trucks and support vehicles make up the rest of their fighting vehicles. These things give the army a lot of strength to fight. Big guns and help from the air are very important parts of how the army fights. The main big gun that moves on its own is the M109, which was designed in America. Some changes have kept it pretty good. They also have smaller guns that can be pulled by trucks for moving around more easily. For help from planes and helicopters in a fight, the army uses the Eurocopter Tigre attack helicopter. This quick helicopter can fight tanks and help soldiers on the ground with its guns. The NH-90 helicopter is used to move soldiers and supplies. Working well with the Spanish Air and Space Force is very important to control the sky and get help from the air. Making sure each soldier has good gear is also important. The Future Soldier program, which turned into SysCap, tries to make soldiers on foot better at their jobs. This means giving them better ways to talk to each other, know what's around them, and stay safe. Their systems for command, communication, and finding out what the enemy is doing are always getting better. They also spend a lot of money on protecting against computer attacks. They are using more drones, which are like small planes without pilots, to watch and find things out. The army tries to get ready for new ways of fighting that are coming up. How much money Spain spends on its army is something people talk about a lot. In 2025, it's about 1.26% of all the money the country makes in a year. This is still less than the 2% NATO says countries in the group should spend. In the past, Spain often spent less on its army than many of its European friends. But because things are changing in the world, the government has promised to do more. They have said they plan to spend a lot more money on defense in the next few years. People in Spain are still talking about how much money should be spent on defense. To get to the NATO amount, the government will have to keep wanting to do it for a long time. Even without a lot of money, Spain helps a lot in missions in other countries. The army often takes part in NATO missions. One example is the group of soldiers in Latvia to show NATO is strong there. Spanish soldiers did a very good job in missions before in places like Afghanistan and Kosovo. The army also helps a lot with United Nations missions to keep peace. For example, they have been in Lebanon for a long time with a UN group called UNIFIL. Also, Spain helps a lot with European Union missions that train soldiers and help with safety, especially in Africa. Many countries see Spain as a good and dependable friend. If you compare the Spanish army to others, it has some important good points. Its soldiers are very good at their jobs. They have learned a lot from being sent to many different countries for missions. Being well connected with NATO is another big plus. Some special things they can do, like their special operations forces, are seen as very good, but there are also some weak spots. Not having enough money for a long time has slowed down getting new things. Some of their gear is old and needs to be replaced. For some very advanced things, Spain needs help from its friends. The Spanish army in 2025 is an army that can do its job well and that others look up to. It's very clear they want to help keep NATO and the EU safe, working together. The biggest problem for the future is making sure they have enough money and stuff for what they want to do and what they've promised to do. It will be very important to keep spending money on new gear and good soldiers. They also need to keep changing their plans as dangers in the world change. What the army does is still very important for protecting Spain and for helping create the peaceful world its friends want. To do well in the future, they need to plan ahead and keep working hard.